Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canadian Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. And this is Miss Huck. She's had a worn out day. She's been in here with me working for about the last 20 minutes. And she's had her eyes closed, and then I started moving around. She opened them up. She's just about ready to go to sleep. So I don't want to upset the executive producer ever. So I'll just get straight to work. And this is a missing person segment. Thank you for being here. And I want you to know that you are appreciated greatly. Yes, and I mean that greatly. Now Huck, being the good girl she is, probably won't make much of a racket for us, so I'm appreciative of that. All right. So we're getting up to that time of the year where I don't like to push my stuff on you, but I need to sometimes. This is going to be one of those advertising segments. Just before Thanksgiving. Always at the end of the year, we start running out of product. Our best-selling hat with the pin, US logo, website on the back. Harvey Pratt drew the emblem. Native American chief drew that emblem for me. Liberty, the most important word in your vocabulary. Get the hat now. If you haven't gotten Missing 411 Washington yet, there's a deal out there for the hat and the book. Get that. One more thing. This book is a bestseller. They're blowing out. This is a huge book. It's 540 pages long. It's huge. It's like a big tabletop book. You want to get this. I'm telling you. If you don't even believe in Bigfoot, all there are is articles in there from the last 200 years. So you want to get, no, actually it went to 1680 to 1925. And the last thing I'm going to push on you. Back when I started into the Bigfoot arena, I was looking around for different researchers that were credible that I could follow. And one of them stuck out right away to me, a guy named Ray Crow out of Oregon. Ray had a bad case of diabetes, and he was getting ready to retire. And he put out some feelers that he wanted to sell his research. I jumped on it, drove to Oregon one day from California, bought the research from him. And one of the things that Ray did really well is he put out a newsletter. And that newsletter, put out 174 of them from 1991 to 2007. That newsletter had everything in there from UFOs, Bigfoot, aliens, Chupacabra, Loch Ness Monster. It was outstanding, the stories he collected. Well, in those newsletters, I went through and we scanned 3,000 pages of that newsletter. Thousands of Bigfoot sighting reports, UFO reports, researcher reports, photos from researchers. And then my job at the end was to sit down with those 3,000 pages and do an index so you could find things in there. Looking up DNA, look up DNA in the index. The biggest index in anything related to cryptozoology. And it took me months and months and months. Then I was in a position I had to do something with all this. And I decided I would scan all those pages of all those great newsletters Ray wrote with that index. And I'd put it in on a thumb drive. It's Mac and PC compatible. If there is one research tool that I use more than anything else, it is this. And I've used it for all kinds of things. And there's articles in here that he quotes, and he includes most of them. And I can't tell you enough. It's called The Track Record, a Bigfoot Encyclopedia. And it's better than any CD. It's better than any DVD you could find online on the topic because it's so comprehensive. So please take a look at our online store at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Go to the online store and you'll find everything. We don't sell on Amazon. Don't buy from Amazon. You're going to get ripped off. They'll charge you 2, 3, or 4 times what I charge at my store. So get on there now before Christmas gets closer so we can ensure that you get what you need. Now, what's going on in the world? Well, the 2 stories for you today are out of Canada. Our cousins to the north. I communicate with Canadians every day just about on X. I have almost 57,000 followers on X. And it's David Paulides, Paulides, at Can-Am Missing Project on X. You'll find me. The first case is a young man named Carl Couture. Went missing October 31st, 2017, not that long ago, 7 years ago, at 12:30 in the afternoon. Carl was raised in Quebec. And for you flatlanders down in the States, not many Quebec people speak a lot of English. The predominant language there is French. Well, Carl believed that he needed to improve his English, so he moved to Vancouver in September of 2017, about a month before this incident. He was a vegan, if that means anything. He wasn't a super experienced hiker or backpacker, but he was a very good researcher. And he did an extensive online search of the area around Grouse Mountain, just north of the city of Vancouver. Oh, I've been on this mountain. So just north of Vancouver, you can look up and there's chairlifts and things going up the mountain. And there's a lot of wood carvings at the top. It's kind of a cool place to go. We went in the middle of summer and a lot of mosquitoes, but it was awesome. Nice thick woods. And I would encourage you to go. It's fun. But that's also the kickoff point for a lot of trails into the backcountry. Well, he did a research into those trails off of Grouse Mountain into the backcountry. Now, he got an apartment on the west side of Vancouver, and on October 30th and October 29th, he was researching the trails on the backside of Grouse Mountain. Well, on October 31st in the morning hours, he started off a hike up to the chalet on the top of Grouse Mountain. At 12:30 in that afternoon, he's caught on closed circuit TV at the Grouse Mountain Chalet walking towards the Haynes Valley Trail. So here's the city of Vancouver. Here's North Vancouver. And then this is Grouse Mountain, and the chalet is right here. Now, off the back side there, you can get to Norvan Falls, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. This area in here, super remote. Super remote. Kind of spooky sometimes, very thick. Sometimes you get the feeling that you're being watched. Tons and tons of UFO sightings in this whole area. Tons. And I mean tons. There was a time in my life where I was spending a lot of time in British Columbia, and I looked. There were a couple of people that had YouTube sites on Vancouver UFOs. Unbelievable footage that they've captured. Yes. Well, Carl's last seen on CCTV on October 31st. Now, on November 2nd, his friends and family weren't able to contact him, and they hadn't heard from him. And they contacted the RCMP. Through some research, they were able to determine that he had been seen at that chalet. They pulled CCTV footage and tried to see if they could figure out which direction he was going, and the best they could figure out was that Haynes Valley. Now, it was 2 days after he disappeared that they were onto him. And that's not good, folks. That's really bad. So his friends and family weren't even sure at the beginning where he did go. But at about the time the RCMP figure out it is Grouse Mountain, the weather just before they figured it out and for the 2 days after was horrible. Super heavy snow, blizzard conditions, super cold. Now, you have the coast, Pacific coast, right there off of Vancouver. And I'm going to tell you that it's really humid and it gets really cold and the snow gets really thick. I've been in it. It's brutal. Well, they finally get onto him full time from November 3rd to the 5th. And the SAR commander said that they've got to go all out because this is serious. He's been missing 2 days. And the pictures that they saw of Carl on the CCTV, in their words, he wasn't dressed appropriately. So my guess is that he wasn't dressed heavy enough. They did say he was wearing high-top tennis shoes. Not good. When you go for a hike in the outdoors, you don't want to wear tennis shoes. You want to wear something that has a very firm foot, unless you're going to be climbing over boulders, because your foot will get sore. You need something on the sole to take all of that abuse. A boot. I guess I don't have my boots in here, but I had a pair of Merrells in here that I really like. Yeah, Merrell boots. I have like 3 pairs of boots depending on what I'm doing. So the commander said conditions were hazardous. They got a late start. They knew what he was wearing. And they started to put up posters in case anybody had seen him. After those 3 days of searching, it was so brutal they called off the search. They said it was too dangerous for searchers. It was too cold. Someone was going to slip and get hurt. They pulled out. They redeployed November 7th through the 12th. And they focused on the far east side of Haynes Valley Trail, south of Northern Falls. Remember, we just told you about Northern Falls. Northern Falls right here. And they were deploying just south of there, kind of between the chalet and the falls. And the reason they were picking that location was because it was lower in elevation and it didn't get the snow that the higher elevations got. So I'm sure you could figure it out. You're a smart group. When you're high up in the mountains and it starts snowing wildly and you're not dressed appropriately or have cover, you get down in elevation. Weather gets warmer, snow stops falling. Important. Well, the 7th through the 12th were on the redeployment. They worked in that lower elevation because they thought that's where Carl would have went. They pulled out on the 12th. They redeployed again December 3rd. And this time they put in 25 to 50 searchers, drones, canines, and they had search and rescue organizations from Lions Bay, Ridge Meadows, Coquitlam, and Surrey. They had a lot of support. Teams were told to look under logs, rocks, and they had a private helicopter service called Talon that flew for multiple days looking for anything on it with Carl. They were just looking for anything at this point. They hadn't found anything. Now this is really interesting. You don't get search and rescue very often telling and talking about unusual things that happen to them. While search and rescue's out on this December event, they get a report from some hikers that are coming in that 5.5 kilometers from the trailhead, they hit an unusual odor on the trail. Now, I looked all over. I could never find a better explanation for what the unusual odor might have been. It's all the wording they used. But SAR deployed down into that area, and the commander said, our SAR teams experienced the same odor, whatever that meant. And they tried to find the source of it, and they couldn't. Pretty normal. And they tried to find if there was anything unusual in that area, and they couldn't. On May 1st, 2018, about 7 months after Carl disappeared, his parents gave an interview to the local news, and they said that they had spoke to 5 different mediums, psychics. And they said that all the mediums indicated that Carl was alive somewhere, but had amnesia and didn't know who he was. And I thought, that's pretty weird, since we did a segment on people with amnesia, and you really don't hear about amnesia these days very often. So for 5 of them to come up with that, that's pretty amazing. But the more unusual thing is, when you come out of the backcountry, you go right back through the chalet to get out. And Carl was never seen on CCTV coming out. So I seriously doubt that he was alive somewhere, but that's what the psychic said. Well, the parents came to Vancouver to distribute posters, and they searched homeless camps, rescue missions, put up flyers everywhere looking for somebody who had seen Carl. Nobody had come forward. Now, SAR, Search and Rescue, turned all their efforts. It's been 8 years since Carl disappeared, and nothing's been found of him. And the Search and Rescue said they allocated 1,500 hours of SAR time to this incident. I searched multiple sources, and I could not find any other details on that odor that was reported on the trail. I can think of only one other incident where I can remember Search and Rescue talking about an odor in conjunction with a search. So, this is Carl Couture, 24 years old, missing October 31st, 2017, seen at 12:30 p.m. Raised in Quebec, spoke broken English, more of a French accent. Now, I promised you a second case from Canada. This one is a bizarre one. This lady's name was Ywanna Backman. Correct that. Ywanna Backman. Yeah, you're right. It's German. Backman. This is Ywanna. She was 70 years old when she went missing, October 13th, 2023. About a year ago. She was last seen on October 13th. Last contacted October 15th. And somebody believed that the last contact was by phone, and she was last seen on the 13th. She lived in a very rural portion of Pinney, Manitoba, 5 miles north of the United States border. Here we go. This is Pinney. This is the U.S. border. This right here, Minnesota. Just the other day, we talked about someone disappearing from Bemidji, Red Lake Indian Reservation. This area, Beltrami, all of this has some of the most unusual disappearances I've ever recorded anywhere. Now add this to the list. So, Pinney's a really small city. She lived on the outskirts of it, lived in a rural area. No neighbors, like right next to her house, but just down the road a bit. On October 19th, 2023, friends of Ywanna's got concerned that they hadn't seen her or heard from her in several days. She wasn't answering her phone. They contacted her daughter, Vanessa, and who lived in Ontario, told her what was going on. Well, simultaneously, another friend was calling the RCMP requesting a welfare check on Ywanna. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but police do this all the time. I probably did 100 of them in my career. You get a call, hey, so-and-so family member hasn't heard from their relative in a long time, need the police to go out and check it. Quick story now. I think I was within the first 6 months of being on the job. And the youngest guys always work Christmas. Well, I was working Christmas Day. Get that call. Yeah, my dad, I haven't spoke to him in 3 days. I'm very worried about him. They're calling from another state. Could you please go check on him? So you always send 2 people out. So 2 officers, myself. It's my call. Real nice neighborhood. Go out, knock on the door, nothing. All the windows are closed, like draped shut. Can't see inside. Call the daughter. Do we have your permission to force entry? Yeah, please do. Force entry. And as we go through the front door, first of all, it's about 80 degrees inside. Very old person, I think he was like 85 years old. And as I'm going through that front door, boom, this heat blast hits me, and I'm looking face to face with a very peaceful older man who died in his rocking chair. Mouth was open, eyes were closed. It wasn't a horrible smelling scene. He'd probably been dead for 2 days. It was peaceful. But that was the first time that I'd ever seen a dead body. And myself and that man spent several hours together. So you have to handle the scene kind of like a murder until you prove otherwise. And we did. And then the coroner came out, looked at the body and goes, what do you think? I said, I think he just died of old age. His wife said that he had some breathing issues, blah, 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 blah. We found the medication bottles. Turns out that he did die of natural causes. But when you do these welfare checks, you never really know what's going to happen. You could run into a crime scene, a murder, who knows? But I never, ever will forget that day. And I remember I got off shift at 3:30, and my family and my aunt and uncles were all holding dinner waiting for me to get there. I think I got there about 4:30. And I didn't tell anybody, except my dad, what happened. And he was a retired fireman by then. He'd been a policeman for a couple of years and transferred to the fire department. He'd seen it all. And he goes, yeah, did it bother you? Yeah, a little. A little. But, so, welfare checks can be a little strange. And in this incident, they went out, did the welfare check. They said that the house wasn't disturbed at all. There was no forced entry. No sign of a struggle. Everything was in order, neat and clean. And they were a little befuddled. So the RCMP officer on scene said, we need a full call out because this woman should be here, her car's here. Neighbors said that she wouldn't have gone anywhere. So they called for a full call out the next day. October 20th, canines, drones, Winnipeg search and rescue came out, local fire department, civil air search. They spoke to the daughter. Daughter said that the locals had game cameras all over those back woodsy areas, agricultural land around the house. And if my mom's back there, she probably got picked up by a camera. Well, then the neighbors were contacted by the RCMP. They went out, pulled the cards. Mom wasn't seen on anything. Vanessa also said that her mom was very capable of living in the woods for many days. She explained that she would usually go out during the right season and go mushroom picking and berry picking, blueberry picking. So she knew what was safe and what wasn't, and was very familiar with the outdoors. Well, they broke up the property into grids. It was 65 acres. It was a big piece of property. And they sent out the canines. They couldn't find her. They flew around it, couldn't find her. They found no recent tracks going to and from the house to the backyard. 3 days of searching and they gave up. October 23rd, end of the day, SAR was terminated, nothing was found. If you were on scene in the United States, that would have been a 7-day search, because you would have been barking in search and rescue's ear. Come on, she could still be alive, let's search. 3 days, not enough. Vanessa gave an interview to the press. Then she said that her mom was not a real social person. A big day for her would be going to a local store and walking to the mailbox. And she said her mom's life was extremely routine. Nothing unusual, nothing out of the ordinary, but she was very independent, very smart. She said that her mom had the distinct ability to make everybody around her feel special. When I read that, I know those kind of people. And you know what? You want to be around those kind of people because they make you feel good. So you want to be one of those kind of people? Make others feel like they're special to you. Ywanna would constantly be sending notes, letters, cards to family members. She was extremely healthy, no indication of dementia at all. Boom. That is an important point to me. When I think about people that are older, that have medical complications, maybe somebody's trying to figure out the DNA. Well, when I start to think about someone 70 years of age, taking no medications, and is perfectly healthy with no dementia, that's a pretty unusual person in today's world. So maybe their DNA is special too. Well, there was an interview with RCMP Sergeant Paul Menagre, and it was on the Pembina Valley Online, if you want to find it. Pembina Valley Online. The sergeant stated that there's no evidence to support foul play. He said that the RCMP has completed 3 searches since 2023 of the property in the surrounding area. And he said that there's a lack of evidence at the scene to indicate to investigators which direction to go. Did they stay on the property? Did they leave the property? If there's no evidence of a crime, then we really can't go after that. And then he said something, I think I've only heard it 5 times in my career, so pay attention. He said, quote, "This is a very puzzling case. If you were to believe in aliens, you'd almost think Ywanna was abducted." What? Oh my gosh. For a sergeant in the RCMP to say that? Whoa. I'm stunned. So the region, the Minnesota area just south of Pinney, has a long history of some of the most unusual cases I've ever written about. The area has a very, very substantial number of UFO sightings, is very swampy, wet, and gets lots of rain and snow. Now, when that sergeant said that, I'm wondering, wow, I wonder if he knows something we don't know. Now, Vanessa said to interviewers, this is very interesting. She said to interviewers that in 1992, a man with dementia went missing from his home. There was a massive search, and he was never found. The man lived 1 mile from Ywanna. I searched hard. I couldn't find the case. She never gave a name. The point behind this, folks. I mean, 2 people disappear within 1 mile of each other and both not found. Bizarre. But I can already tell you, I think this case is highly unusual, as did the sergeant. Now, again, Ywanna, super healthy, 70 years old, missing October 13th, 2023. That and Carl Couture, missing October 31st, 2017. Grouse Mountain, Vancouver. Both people never found, a man and a woman. A lot of you say, well, Dave, it's pretty unusual to have a woman disappear. I would agree it is. And to have one disappear from her property under these conditions is really weird. So thanks for being here. Remember, you can watch my movies on Tubi, T-U-B-I, right now for free. Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, Missing 411 The UFO Connection. Spread those links around. I want everyone to watch it so they can understand what we're doing here. It is important. Huck has woke up. Her eyes are open. She's going to give me this side eye, you watch. Hey, what you doing down there? Huh? That's it. Good girl. Okay, you guys, Paulides out.